Look at that. Everybody is rushing into the meeting. I can see them all cramming from the lobby through the front doors. Excited to join us for this really interesting talk we've got coming up. We'll give everybody a second to keep crushing through those doors. We got a lot of people joining us today, but we're excited. We're excited to have everybody.
Welcome, welcome. The chat is open.
Clapping. I saw some clapping already. That's pretty awesome. We're doing a great job right out of the gate, folks. Yeah, look at that. Thank you.
Great to see everyone.
Yeah, this is exciting. We're leading up, obviously, to Dynamics Con coming up in Chicago here in May, and really excited to have our guests with us here today to talk about ERP and AI, but also got some special stuff around Dynamics Con coming at the end, a giveaway. So again, we'll give everybody a few minutes to pop in, and then we'll get started. Love the international flavor. We got people coming in from Germany. I see people starting to check in from where they're coming in from. So yeah, let us know where you're joining us from. We'd love to hear. Love to see that. And look, there's a poll. It's like it's magic. Like I said it, and magically a poll initialized for us to look at.
Where are you joining us from? This might be, Bobby, where they possibly get a free ticket to Dynamics Con.
I see Denmark in there, Macedonia,
Ooh,
Fargo. Is that you, Molly?
That's not even me. Hello, fellow Fargoites.
Yeah, Hamburg. I love it. The word cloud is filling up. While we're again waiting for people to get in, still a lot of folks cramming in here. The chat is open, so you're welcome to post questions in there. We'll be looking through at the chat throughout, ticking questions. So let us know what questions you have. We'll keep on top of that.
And just a note for those who are familiar with Teams webinar, there is a Q&A option, but to keep it easy on our wonderful presenters we have today, we are pushing everybody and encouraging you to put your questions, comments, and everything else in the chat. So we will gently guide you to the chat option if you are in the Q&A box, as they will not be watching that for your questions. So if you can move anything that you have into the chat feature today, that would be much appreciated on all of us.
Shout out to Virginia. That's my home state. Okay. See Virginia popping in there.
South Dakota. Ooh, I like it. My neighbor to the south.
Great. I think we'll go ahead and get started. I know we got a lot of good content to get to, and we do have some people still popping in, but we're 5 minutes after the hour. So again, appreciate everybody for showing up here with us today. We're excited to kick off kind of not the official start to Dynamics Con, but an important one. And we're happy to have with us today Georg Glantschnig and Gokul Ramesh to talk about autonomous ERP and AI agents. They're going to be going through some a really cool presentation for you today. And I'm going to kick it off. I'm going to talk less and let them talk more. So I'm going to just let those guys take over for us and get us started. So thanks again for joining us, Georg and Gokul. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, Bobby. Thank you, Molly. I was a little bit distracted looking at the chat before the countries. And again, no preferences, but I'm from Austria, so I saw one Austrian, and what a coincidence, Günther Gera is also with 2 Gs, Georg Glantschnig. So I think that's pretty unique. Maybe Molly qualifies for another free ticket for the Chicago event.
Maybe.
Nope, that's what you get for giving Georg free reign to give away tickets.
That's right.
No promises. Also, we're just presenters, not in control of the tickets. But thank you for joining. Let's do a short introduction, and Gokul, apologize if I maybe go first just to make it easy. Georg Glantschnig, also excited to talk about autonomous ERP today, hopefully creating some excitement then for our main event in Chicago, where I very happy to be invited to do the keynote there. So please, join us. Hopefully see you there in person. As a part of Microsoft, responsible for the Dynamics ERP portfolio. from a product perspective, also meaning, the product management resources who are defining what we are building, and engineering resources, hopefully building everything in quality and to customer specifications. As I always say, the person to either blame if it's not working, but hopefully celebrate if it's working. And when we say ERP at Microsoft, these are all the backend functionalities, also like finance, supply chain, commerce, project operations, field service management, HR, globalization, also all the important things basically a company needs to run. And even more important than having products is also how customers, partners are using it. And therefore, I'm super happy that Gokul was able to join us to tell us a little bit about the other side. Also, he's on the FastTrack side, but Gokul, maybe if you can introduce yourself first, and then we will go into the details.
Thanks, Georg. As Georg said, I'm the one trying to keep Georg honest with all the things that he mentioned. But hi all, my name is Gokul Ramesh, and I run our FastTrack program for Dynamics 365. And been with Microsoft for a long time, but super happy to be having this co-session with Georg in this event, and also looking forward to the Chicago event as well. So Molly, Bobby, and Ryan, thanks for having us here.
Thank you, Gokul. And as you can see, as we mentioned, May 13th, Chicago event, Dynamics Con. If you haven't done yet, please register. Please, join us there. Maybe just briefly on logistics, we'll present roughly, I would say, 20 minutes, giving you a little bit food for thought. As again, two perspectives from a product perspective, as a product execution strategy, but then also, how is it perceived on customer and partner side. Please use the chat to put questions in there, as I hope we will be able to manage the flow. For the more technical persons, maybe you're going for a last in, first out principle also at the end. So the longer you wait with the questions, maybe the easier it will get. But please, should be interactive this session. So hopefully have a lot of good questions so we can discuss it. So with that, let's jump into it. Of course, big thank you for joining us. Super exciting times for Microsoft. As I'm sure you heard about all these innovations we are seeing with artificial intelligence, but we are trying really to apply all this goodness for our ERP portfolio. And I think ERP is at a very, very interesting point in time as we see this transition, from legacy systems into this next generation of ERP. As our direction is Autonomous ERP, and we'll talk about it, what this basically means, also how these concepts basically will apply there. And then, of course, Gokul will follow up with a more candid view, as he said, also keeping me and everybody honest, what's working, how is it working, how customers are using it. And of course, if you use it, you learn something. There's a lot of practical advice there when it comes to these new innovations. And as I said, also hopefully this fireside chat will motivate you, to join us then also in Chicago. So with that, let's get started. I wanted to maybe highlight more like conceptually, if you keep this in mind, I think it makes it easier to understand, what are these big shifts we are talking about when we talk about autonomous ERP. Also, if you talk about this vision of how transformative, these AI innovations are and how it helps basically customers to gain advantage, I think these are the three layers you should really keep in mind and really trying to simplify. As this evolution basically is driven by the first one, what we call is the transforms, basically how we interact with software. Also, I would say until now, it was more like, we create software and then end users, customers have to kind of understand how it works, and you train and you maybe figure it out. But I think there's now this concept of, can a computer also understand how we're using software instead of clicking buttons and filling out forms. There's also now speech, how we can interact. There's with images, with videos. There's a lot of different ways we can interact with software now, which is really interesting and cool for our applications. The second layer, also here in the middle, we now also have a very powerful reasoning engine. So this is, where you can basically ask the system, to try to, create like a chain of thought, understanding data, contextualized, maybe coming up with recommendations, or you can also use it, to try to complete end-to-end tasks on your behalf. And then the last layer, I think, is maybe the most important one. These reasoning capabilities now also grounded in memory. So, these concepts, or we call it agents, they also have a possibility to learn. So it's not a very static automation, so which exists here today, but these automations have intelligence, so they can get better and better. So if you keep these concepts in mind, also these are really these innovations we have seen now with Gen AI, this makes this new breed of business applications possible, and we can talk about this idea with customers of, what would it mean to be an AI first company? And again, if we use this as a very simple concept, also when we interact with customers and talk about, how can you transform as a company, I think that's the concept they are adapting. So we have people will have co-pilots, and co-pilots basically is how they interact. And these co-pilots basically, we have a mesh of agents, so which are helping to execute a task. So for example, if I'm a financial planner, or if I'm a demand planner, or if I'm a project manager, I have a lot of tasks to do, but now I can basically interact with Copilot, and Copilot can then trigger, the tasks you have to do, if it's, reacting on any kind of changes, in a data, so that you maybe have to update your plan, or if you're a project manager, there's a lot of time entries, or expense entries, or project status reports, all these things, basically, you interact with Copilot, but Copilot can basically trigger these actions to be done. And of course, as always in Microsoft, this has to happen in a controlled, secure environment. Still, ERP is about, auditability, it's about security, it's about trust. So there's, of course, no compromise. And I think this is how we transform basically the way how we will work, how we interact with business applications, and how we run basically business workflow in any kind of environments, if it's financials or planning or supply chain. So we believe that every company will go through this transformation. Of course, this is a phased journey. We'll also talk a little bit about it. I would say right now, of course, most companies are feeling most comfortable with a human first approach. You are triggering actions, you're asking via Copilot to do different tasks. But of course, if you trust the system more, then maybe companies are starting to hand off these tasks to agents to let them run in the background, and you just want to be notified if there's exceptions, or if something is where you have to interact. So taking these concepts and applying it now to Autonomous ERP, also the portfolio I'm responsible. The big concepts there, I would say, if you think about ERP right now, it's still a very reactive system. So you more like, you're entering data, you're reporting over this data, but it's very difficult to anticipate effectively if something is changing, or if data is changing, or if there's a disruption, what are you doing with it? So legacy ERP systems, I think it's still more about predefined business processes, and you have a dedicated static UI where you basically add data. So if you think about Autonomous ERP, it's basically shifting this paradigm. So with Copilots and agents, also the concepts we just saw, you can enable dynamic workflows, you can have an adaptive experience. And this is the concepts, if you will also show you a quick demo then later, you should keep in mind. So if you think about Autonomous ERP, one differentiation is, with Copilot, with agents, the system is kind of always listening. So agents are basically waiting, listening. They can react to changes. They can react to emails. They can react to any kind of signals, and then proactively trigger something. And this, of course, hopefully will replace, slow manual processes, where humans have to do something, have to wait for something, or maybe you just miss it. So it's very hard to stay on top of everything. The second one, I think we talked about briefly, if you think about workflows, again, nothing new, but workflows are rule-based. So basically, you have to upfront define, if this happens, then do this. If that happened, then do that. And if something changes, the whole workflow doesn't work anymore. So now with these advancements, we have this possibility, to either people or agents trigger these workflows, these dynamic workflows on the fly. And because we have memory, the system maybe over time will understand, okay, this is an exception, but this is an acceptable exceptions. So I consider this for the next iteration, and maybe you could automate 80%. Now with this intelligence, maybe we can go to 90%, 95%, and have a higher degree of automation. And finally, if you think about how you interact with software, as you know, teams will feel more empowered to use these solutions. They will no longer have to navigate through these complex menus you may be used from ERP systems, jumping between forms. Instead, it's more like as a Copilot will present you with the information you need, for example, to react to an exception of I couldn't maybe do an expense report because there's some things missing, or I couldn't basically, use this invoice because there's, something missing. So the agents mostly will interact with the system, but the user will mostly interact with Copilot and react more on exceptions, also be more in a supervisory role. And of course, that's easier said than done. To implement this, basically, this is, if I would have to summarize our framework and platform to realize that. So this is basically on one slide, the entire portfolio. So we have this, I would say, very impactful 3 layers. The first one, maybe if I start with the middle, I think that's kind of the heart of the whole autonomous ERP system. As it's basically we call it the agent foundations. Also that's, kind of the brain, maybe like the nerve system of ERP. It's built on Microsoft Copilot Studio. In case you have heard about it, so that's basically Microsoft's platform to create agents. Also agents basically I create as a solution for our customers, but also customers or partners can basically create their own ones, as we call it, then like third-party agents. So that's where they're also getting executed, where they get monitored. So I think this is really the foundation and the long-term value of this autonomous ERP layer. But then, of course, at the end, these agents, they have to do something. As an agent is triggering an action, and these actions are triggered normally in these backend systems. They are relying on data. So therefore, the other big investments we're doing is how can we make agents easier to access, data to trigger actions. And we have a little bit this concept of headless services there, which I think was very early stage in commerce, but I think this is now applied to everything. As you know, we see all our portfolio here. How can we make them headless services for finance, for supply chain, for commerce, for project operations, so that these agents have an easy way to trigger with a very clean API all these actions. And of course, we also have done already a lot of investments. How can we divide and also provide an analytical data layer, for planning, for insights, because we will have these 2 agents. Also agents either helping you with operational processes, also, getting a job done, or of course, any kind of insights based on the data, more like simulations looking into the future. And then, of course, on the top, the adaptive experience layer, I think also that's the way how users will interact with the system. But most of the communications will be between these 2 layers, and basically a user only has to engage with exceptions. And of course, super important and goes without saying, everything, of course, will be extensible across all layers. Also Microsoft will always provide the 80% processes. We cannot cover everything, but then partners, customers can build on top and extend with the same tools we are building it. So let me just briefly talk about a little bit the journey before I show you an example. As we basically went into this journey in 2 waves. Also we started about 18 months ago. We shipped Copilot scenarios in our solution. Also this is part of our solution. So in case you use Dynamics, you have it. It's more assistive as well, like, summarizations, Q&A. This is what we call sort of wave 1 of these scenarios. And we really saw great momentum there. We have many of the scenarios, as you can see here, just a couple of snapshots in the system already. And that's really important for us because this is new territory. We're all learning. So by having these scenarios out there as one of the first providers, it gives us a chance to understand what's going on. And we have, 50% and more of our existing users are already using these services. But again, this is assistive. It's supporting the end user in case there are questions to make life a little bit easier. But we are already in the middle of what we call wave 2 as a direction, Copilot and agents. Maybe you saw it, Satya announced also end of last year, the 10 agents we are shipping. 6 of them are in the space of ERP, which also shows, I think, the value creation will be in the domain of ERP because there's still so much manual tasks going on. And again, also there, a lot of agents in private preview out there. I think Gokul will also then talk about the experiences there. But we have really good traction. And of course, in a point of time, the system will feel more and more autonomous, basically, the more agents you have. So with that, maybe I just want to show you one brief demo video. It's about 2 minutes, but I think it helps you then to bring these concepts a little bit together when I talked, okay, what are these 3 layers of change, with the interaction with the system. We have then the reasoning engine, we have the memory, and then we are saying, you will interact as a user more with Copilot and you trigger agents. And wanted to show you one example in time and expense management. Also how agents can help you, with time entry, with expense management, and hopefully it makes these conceptual things I outlined a little bit more realistic. So with that, let me roll the video.
Time and expense management is a task no one enjoys. Say you're a consultant, you'd much rather spend your time adding value to your clients than doing tedious admin tasks. With a time and expense agent in Dynamics 365, you can do just that. The agent pulls data right from your Outlook calendar and cross-references it with your project forecasts for each client. It drafts your time entries for you, filling in the details with context from meetings and emails. Now, all you have to do is review and submit with a single click, and your business trip expenses become a breeze as the time and expense agent takes care of that for you, collecting receipts from your email and mapping to the right expense categories. You just need to ensure accuracy and submit your expenses on time. The agent helps out managers too. It reviews time and expense submissions and ensures they comply with company policies, automating approvals for all compliant entries. With a streamlined process, you can get invoices to customers promptly, helping prevent revenue leakage. It also helps identify violations to policy, ensuring clients are never billed for incorrect time or expenses. With agents and Dynamics 365, you're freed up to spend time focusing on what is important, driving value for your clients.
So I hope it helped a little bit to, make these concepts real and give you an understanding of, what is an agent, how does it look like, how do you configure it, and, how is this exception handling done. So with that, I wanted to then switch over and explore a little bit the other side. As I'm saying, the other side is then, customers and partners using it. And that's where Gokul is very instrumental, also helping us to, bring this to customers, make customers happy, use it, and of course, bring then all the learnings back into engineering so that we basically can iterate and get better. So with that, Gokul, maybe if you take control. So you did already give
Georg,
control.
I requested for control.
Yeah, I gave it to you.
Okay, awesome.
Take it away.
Time and expense management is a
we don't want that to play again. Thanks, Georg. So if you look at what's happening in our market, both critics and customers and even our partners are super excited about agentic capabilities across the board. And if you see what VentureBeat is saying for folks who follow Avengers, it seems like we are the Tony Stark of AI ecosystem. And it is true, you heard from Georg that we do have these magical agents. So now let's talk about how you can get your hands on some of these agents. Okay, so now let's review the timeline. So currently we are in private preview, and this private preview is currently kind of controlled by us. And we have recruited 30 plus customers across various industries to look at how agents will work in the real world scenarios. And we have 30 plus customers who are going through that journey with us. But for most of you, this would be Georg, I think, maybe. I don't know if you moved the slide. Okay. But for most of you, April is the date when we'll be opening the floodgates, and you should be able to start deploying these agents in your sandbox and start testing. And based on the public preview, then we'll make it generally available later in 2025. Just to give you an idea in terms of adoption, so far, as I was saying earlier, we have around 30 plus customers. Because of the deep involvement from our product groups, we have kept the private preview to be small to ensure that we have dedicated focus and enough time to pay attention to these preview customers before we kind of go open open the floodgates. So with that, there are a whole bunch of things that we have learned through this experience already with our customers. And some of these, let me finish this clicking. So first, what I want to say is customers who have tested our agents have provided us additional use cases that they need for their specific industries. For example, if you look at our supplier agent, some of our customers have requested us to support procurement categories, not just like the products that you have on the purchase order lines, for example, if you will. So next, even on the UI side, customers have also requested to make it easier and understand like what our agents are doing. And it is critical. I saw some of the comments there, and maybe after this, we'll talk about a bit there as well. So the feedback is around usability and in terms of understanding what these agents are doing and how do you surface that data to the end user. And lastly, some of our customers have provided requests around having additional data sources for these agents to go look at. Like again, if you look at our supplier communication agent, today we support email as one of the inputs. But some of our customers in the preview have mentioned that like, hey, my emails are good, but some of the data comes through integration, and it may be in our lake, or it may be things like EDI and various sort of things. So the request is for us to go expand these data sources, even for the first party agents as well. So it's good that we are learning all of this, but what are we doing with these learnings? So as I mentioned before, our product teams are deeply engaged with these customers. So the feedback goes directly to the appropriate PMs and engineers within Georg's team to help them inform about the feature request, but also prioritize the roadmap. We are not just stopping there. Additionally, we are also addressing and seeing some room for us to improve ourselves based on the telemetry. Like one of the things that we are really focused on is improving the accuracy, mainly around change detection and few other things. So while we are continuously improving, the agents are learning, but also we welcome the feedback from our customers as well. So with that, let's take a real example here. I want to walk you through a quick customer scenario, but first, I wanted to kind of set this preface. I always say to the customers when it comes to like Copilot, agents, adoption, you don't have to boil the ocean. You can always start with small but more impactful areas for the business. So that's how you get started, build trust, and then expand. Lifetime is one of our customers, and while they manufacture across the globe, they take pride in producing a lot of their products here in the US. They manufacture basketball hoops, kayaks, chairs, tables, and few other things. For them, ensuring the quality and timely delivery at a competitive price is crucial for them. So, for example, they are now testing our supplier agent. With the supplier agent, they can react in a no-touch way by updating their production orders and managing the downstream impact based on the disruptions that they are seeing in the supply chain and communication that is coming from their vendors regarding raw materials when they would arrive, if there is a change in the delivery date, and things like that. So all of those things happen seamlessly, like allowing their purchasing team to focus solely on the exception scenarios. So Lifetime has been providing us with that constant feedback, and we have also heard even from them about some additional use cases around, hey, purchase order is great, but when it comes to supplier communication, we also want purchase requisition. So with that, real quick. With that, the question is, how do you get your hands on these agents? So customers can get started right away, like by contacting like your FastTrack solution architect as well. Um, we will also then set you up with the demo environment and also help you understand if these agents meet any of your use cases. And since we are very close to the public preview, which is right around the corner, customers can also prepare for this for a trial by evaluating your business process and see where those impactful areas are and how these agents can benefit. So we have those 6 agents on the ERP front that are readily available soon in April. So with that, so now we are ready for all of your questions.
Thank you, Gokul.
Georg, I didn't. Go ahead, Georg. I didn't yet.
What did you say?
Oh, sorry, I went on mute. I didn't look at the chat while I was talking, so maybe.
Yeah, the interesting thing is if you take control, I could not use my cursor, so therefore it was a little bit tricky.
Okay, got it.
But there's a lot of stuff going on in chat, but there's a lot of answers there as well. Yeah? So that's of course cool. Questions and answers already, but let's.
I think I can uplift a few of the questions that haven't been answered. I've been tracking.
Oh, this would be perfect.
Yeah. So the first question that wasn't answered yet was: could you speak about or give any examples of Power Automate flows, cloud flows, and how they integrate into the finance and ERP enterprise? I'm not sure if that's part of this conversation, but if you have any information on that.
Georg, if you're okay, maybe I can take that.
So this is the moment where I'm super happy that Gokul is here.
So when we think about an agent, so for an agent, there should be set of inputs Then there is this brain, which is, you can think about LLMs. And then there is knowledge. And knowledge is all the data that is in D365, but also some specific knowledge in your customer front that is held in documents or things like that, that is fed to this agent through the knowledge. And the main critical part of this agent is the actions that agents will take. So that's where Power Automate plays a key role in terms of for you or for the agent to be for it to go and take those actions. So if you look at our Copilot Studio, now we have added Power Automate as a first-class citizen within the Microsoft Copilot Studio so that you can define those deterministic action that Power Automate can take. So for the agents that we are shipping first party, so we are defining those actions, and for those actions to be executed, most of them would be in the Power Automate, but there is also a bunch of APIs and triggers based on what's happening and what you're doing. These agents would be able to go trigger.
Yeah. And maybe Gokul, there's another question which I think fits perfectly there. There was the question, how different is the ERP AI agents compared to Copilot Studio, which I think would be important to clarify. So these are not two different things. Also, as I outlined in my, when you think about the 3 layers I showed before, so Copilot Studio is basically where we are building on our agents. So the difference is customers can use Copilot Studio to extend our agents or create their own agents. But it's the same platform. And in our case, of course, the agents we are delivering to our customers, it's kind of a solution. So these agents will get updated, they will get better. So we are basically owning them versus a customer is building them themselves. But again, the foundation is Copilot Studio, as Gokul said, for orchestration, which kind of a service are you calling. But basically, it's just a refinement maybe of services you need if you think about a first-party solution. Also, it's very similar if I'm saying you can use Power BI for reporting, you can do everything yourself, or I deliver business analytics for finance as part of our solution, and we are taking care of how do we get the data out, how do we transfer the data, the reports are working, they're updated. So a little bit similar concept, but again, it's the same foundation, same platform. So of course, all the synergies, enhancements, Copilot Studio is making every month, we are getting for free, kind of.
Yeah. Georg, I also wanted to take this one important question that I saw in the chat. And maybe I'll get started and maybe you can add to that as well. So when we look at our agents, so security is the #1 priority for us. And we are super focused in terms of each action that agent is taking, but also the agent is learning as well. And we want to make it transparent for all our customers. So we would have an audit log of what agent does and what actions it took, so that as the end user, you are in control and you also understand what these agents are doing on behalf of you. And I know there was a question around like some of these going back to like maybe localization requirement or reporting to your local authorities and things like that as part of the tax processing or whatever that requirement is. So we will have that audit trail so that you should be able to go submit that to authorities as per your requirements in terms of if there is a need to understand, like in the supplier agent scenario, what actions exactly these agents took on behalf of you. Georg, I don't know if you want to add anything there.
No, it's super important, and I think I mentioned it as nothing changes for the core demand of an ERP system, which means it has to be secure, it has to be traceable, it has to be trusted. So you cannot now say, oh, my tax report was wrong, but it wasn't me, it was the agent. you can, whatever, file a lawsuit against an agent. So again, everything has to be traceable. Everybody has to know what's happening when, which data is used. Again, data belongs to the customer. So all the goodness from Microsoft, again, no compromise. And I think that's how we differentiate, because that's not easy to solve. But since we own the whole stack from infrastructure to data storage to application to platform, for us, much easier to solve this problem, which of course every ISV has out there. And also, I know probably we are jumping a little bit ahead, but I just saw one unanswered, which I thought maybe fits also in there. It was from Adrian, like any advice, for easing the end user into using this new AI agents and tool. Big hurdle I have noticed is that users are scared to use these tools and agents. Also absolutely something we also see, and this was a little bit what I was trying to highlight with these different waves. So, of course, customers are different. There's more early adopter, there's more late adopter, there's more mainstream adopters. Of course, it's more suitable for early adopters who are saying, hey, I want to understand them, I want to test them. But at least we felt, and maybe Gokul can also add there, this first wave of agents, which was more like assistive, as it was not like, it was more like helping you as a person to be more productive. So instead of you trying to find a summary of a purchase order by going to different screens, the Copilot can summarize it for you, and maybe it's something you think it's worthwhile looking at. Also this assistive, or like you can ask questions, I think this was something where I feel you can get end users kind of at least familiar with these new tools. And if there's more trust, maybe they say, hey, I trust now also this agent maybe to do a booking or do an expense report or do a time entry. But again, of course, always with full transparency and control. It's a little bit like, I don't even know when it happened, but when you think about navigation systems in cars, maybe 15 years ago, still, if in the early days people looked at the navigation system, but then you still saw them sitting with a map there and saying, the system says I should go left, maybe no, I go right. I think the map I trust it more. But now I would say you switch the thing on in the car, it says left, you go left. If it says right, you go right. So there's the trust already established. But I think this is really a journey, and that's also where FastTrack, of course, can help. How do you bring users and customers along instead of scaring them?
Yeah, Georg, that's a great point. And if I were to add to that point, like the thing that we are thinking about these agents is, hey, this agent not only saved 3 hours here, 4 hours there. That's how not we are measuring internally. When we are building these agents, we are looking at like, hey, is there an opportunity to reduce my leakage in terms of revenue? Am I able to submit all the timesheets on time? So that's like a scenario. And like if you look at our purchasing side, is there any emails that is going unnoticed because users are busy, which is having an impact on my production capabilities? So there the goal is not to miss any of those changes from the supplier, because ultimately it causes customer dissatisfaction, but also maybe a loss in revenue because you don't have a product on time for that customer. They might go somewhere else. So that's how we are looking at it, not just in terms of like, I was able to save 3 hours, 4 hours here, giving back to the user.
Yeah, thank you, Gokul.
And Georg, I think there was one question. You kind of started this with your slides, but I think it would be a good one to for this audience to know. I'm just trying to find that question. It was mainly around UI. So because there were a lot of other questions, it's moved. So it was something around the lines of, hey, is my UI going to change? Or over time, do you feel that it will really slim down? So maybe, yep, Georg, if you could.
I'm looking for that question. It was it was from Radesh around ISVs. And it says also, which capabilities are being taken away? Will the D365 UI retire or be slimmed down eventually? AJ did point to an article, but if you have anything else to add to that, I'm sure the folks would like to hear that.
Yeah. Of course, I mean, you have to be careful as we're not switching anything off. That's not the point. I think what you will see more and more is the interaction will change. Let's assume now, as you saw in the demo, that agents can do time entry. Yeah? So of course they can look to your calendar, they can look through emails, they can look through project reports, they can maybe do expenses, they can go through your credit card statements, they can go through your whatever, any kind of bookings. So you maybe are not using your forms, to enter this data anymore because the agent can do that for you. So you don't want to look at this complex screen and then saying, oh, in line 16 in column 14 in this field or in this entry, you have to, whatever, something is missing, or again, there's policies you have to comply with. So when we talk about adaptive user experience, it's more like when Copilot says, hey, for this expense report there is 2 unresolved issues, but we're not saying now you have to figure out in the complex menu of an ERP system, oh, I have to go now somewhere, whatever, level 6 menu to the screen. Copilot will basically on the fly, so with these advancements, create the user interface and just ask you exactly for, this is the field which is missing, maybe makes a proposal, you can do it, that's done. So you don't want to be exposed to this whole complexity. So I think more and more will shift into this direction. So what it of course means now for me as a leader of this organization, how much do I invest into the complexity of the UI, make it extensible and make it configurable? Is this the investments I want to make? Or if I'm anyway saying I think the interactions will be less and less with these complex screens, let's focus on this adaptive experience. So I think that's the trade-offs we are doing, and over time, yes, I assume more and more interactions will be via Copilot with an adaptive experience versus users trying to figure out, oh, which menu do I have to go to do certain actions. So that's so conceptually, I think, maybe helps to understand where we are going.
Thanks, Georg. No, I think you covered it well, Georg. And also, like the slide that Georg showed, more and more we feel like the concept of headless ERP will prevail, and Copilot in some ways would become that entry point for you to interact with ERP or agents. But it's the balance, as Georg mentioned. So moving on to the next question, I think it's from Claudio. To configure agent actions in Copilot Studios, will there be more and more predefined actions that trigger tasks in the ERP, or is the strategy to use mainly Power Automate flows? Maybe I'll start, and Georg, if you want to add as well. So in Copilot Studio, so we have done a whole bunch of things. Firstly, have Power Automate there as a first-class citizen, but also we have now exposed APIs like virtual entities and business docs. So you would be able to now utilize these predefined action points, which is combination of both Power Automate and these APIs to now trigger an action that needs to go back and happen in the ERP. So in some cases, if you want to schedule or orchestrate that, then Power Automate would be of great help there, where you can define that orchestration. And if you have any deterministic needs, and in some cases where you know that, hey, if the sales order details are confirmed, then all I want to do is just go and confirm that sales order in the ERP. So then you should be able to use those APIs to just go and confirm that order in the ERP.
I'm just jumping because I referenced to it now a couple of times, but again, of course, this is super simplified, but that's basically what is kind of hiding in this layer. Also, how can we, make this services accessible as Gokul mentioned, that agents, have a much more efficient way of communicating. And in this agent foundation layers in the middle, this layer, that's basically, where we have this orchestration layer, which is Copilot Studio, and then basically knows, oh, what do I have to do now? Which action am I triggering? And then this action will lead to something. So that's a little bit the sophistication we are trying to solve with these 3 platform layers, which we think are necessary if we want to go direction autonomous ERP.
Your hard question for you from Terry.
I was just about to bring that one up because I'm sure that everybody's, I saw it a little higher. Everybody's interested in the cost.
Yeah, maybe I'll read out that question and maybe Georg, you can first.
We can vamp for 5 minutes. Yeah,
your way, and I can help as well. So the question from Terry is, what will be the price point for the end users? That is like, is it token or messages, or how are we going to monetize this?
I can talk about the concept we are thinking. Yeah, so we have it as different phases. We have, we call it like a private preview. So it's more like when we work with selected customers to really test concepts, agents, scenarios, business value. Then we go into public preview where basically customers can decide they want to test it, they want to work with us. And these 2 phases basically is not just to understand the product quality, but it's also to understand what's the business value and how do we capture this business value. Of course, again, in a win-win situation, meaning there is value for the customer and hopefully there's value for Microsoft and both parties feels that this is fair. So the shift we are trying to make is, if you can imagine, the more agents you have, the more of these kind of things will be triggered in the background. So our classical model, which is user-based pricing, is not really, I think, the right thing to capture this value. Of course, you could always say like, no, instead of maybe 100 users in finance, you're only buying 50 users, and you make the user price more expensive. But I don't think this is the fair way of doing it because you want to capture the value of these agents. So therefore, we are trying to go more consumption-based. And so basically, when these agents are working, they are consuming, messages token. I think this is to be defined what the currency is and what the value is. But I think that's at least the direction we want to go. But again, we have to also test it because customers are not, I would say they're not super happy right now about it because consumption-based is hard to predict. And right now, a budget cycle is, I have $1 million budget for this year. If you're telling me now, you don't know because it depends on the consumption, this is very hard for customers. So we still have to figure out how we do this. But I think the consumption-based model is the right model to go into this direction, autonomous, because you want to capture the value of, more things done by agents and consumption maybe is the right way to go there.
Yeah. Thanks, Georg, for that. And also just to add to what Georg was also mentioning is, so if you look at our public preview, and we are closely kind of looking at in the private preview in terms of how our customers are utilizing this. So for the public preview, what's happening is it would be more around the lines of bring your own subscription through Microsoft Copilot Studios. And the way that would measure is, Terry, you mentioned tokens. So in our world, it would be the trigger points or the messages. It's based on how many messages we have processed. So that's how it would work for the public preview. And as Georg was mentioning earlier, we are continuously looking at what's the best mechanism. So for now, it will be kind of pay as you go. You bring in your subscription with number of messages that you would process using your Microsoft Copilot Studio.
And again, it's not like 5A. So we have the 6 agents in ERP in private preview, and we want to go into public preview in April. So that's also when we have to explain and disclose what the thinking is on the pricing. So it's not now crazy far out there. So, but like with the agents, we learn as we go. Also, this is all new territory. There's no copy and paste out there. Also, nobody has done it before. So therefore, it's good to get feedback and see how it works. I think we have 4 minutes left, Gokul, so
Yeah.
I guess we can take one more question, but how do we do that? Yeah? I know, Bobby, do you have one where you say?
Yeah, we'll ask Bobby to.
blame Bobby.
We had another pricing question at the end there. Can we expect some of the prices to go down for AI builder features? But I'm looking to see if there's any other questions we missed.
I mean, there was an interesting one. Also, with consumption prices will go down. That's our hope. The more you consume, the better the pricing will be and all the advancements. But I saw, Bobby, there was one question about which I thought interesting between F&O and Business Central. Is this applying for Business Central as well? Which I thought maybe would be worth.
That's a good one to get out to the public because it was answered. But yeah, I think that's a great way to end, just to kind of talk about what's upcoming for Business Central and what's available now.
Yeah, as a Business Central, we have it as offering, for small, medium customers, we have Business Central solution. Then for medium, upper medium, large enterprise, we have our F&O offering. I call it now Autonomous ERP. This is more the direction, but at the end, maybe mostly known as our F&O portfolio. And I would say there's synergies. So when Mike Morton, who is leading the Business Central business, when we think about agents, how do you train an agent? How do you make an agent understand, how does a sales order process work? How does an expense management process work? Also these models, as we call them, and the fine-tuning model is something we can share. Because at the end, the agent might not care about, is this now a small customer, a medium customer, or a large customer? But of course, the requirements are different. I would say there is agent scenarios Business Central is delivering. Also, again, they have already private previews. They will also deliver agents in public preview. Maybe they are relevant for a small customer, but they're not really relevant for a large enterprise customer, because maybe a large enterprise customer anyway has everything electronically integrated. A small customer maybe is doing much more email, and therefore the scenario is much more important. So I think there's distinctions of the segment. We have reuse components, but of course at the end, if you want to call a service, the service will be a Business Central service, not an F&O service. So again, in Copilot Studio or whatever the orchestration layer is, the agent knows, where to go. So I think there's a lot of learnings on agent level, but if it then comes really to delivery, to execution, of course, these agents will be very tightly bundled into Business Central, because that's basically where they are supposed to work out of the box and will be enhanced there. I know, Gokul, if you have something to add.
In terms of Business Central, so as Georg mentioned, like the targeted audience, but I just want to add that they have now released a sales order agent where you can create orders in a no-touch fashion, where if the orders are coming through emails, the agent is able to go through your emails and create those orders within the system for you. I know from a Business Central standpoint, a lot of our customers don't have the capacity to have a lot of people looking at these things. So having them help with the order intake process kind of help them to increase their revenue with the number of people they already have. Georg, I was also trying to share this slide. I think it was about your event and the discount that we have for that event. So.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. Give me a second.
I just shared it, Georg.
Oh, so you shared. Okay. Yeah.
If you want to quickly announce this.
Absolutely. So this, of course, also means we are officially closing the Q&A session. So big thank you from my side as well, for joining, for all the good, interesting questions, and for all the answers already coming. I also learned something when I looked at the answers. That's always good. And as I think Bobby in the beginning was kind of saying, if you make it to the end, which is almost an hour, there is something waiting for you. So there is a code for you, fireside 15. You can try fireside 20, but I don't think it will change. Fireside 15 means 15% discount if you use this to book the tickets. So yeah, it was a pleasure being with you guys. As I said, hopefully seeing everybody in Chicago at Dynamics Con.
And from my side, I want to echo Georg's sentiments. We are super excited about these agents, but also thank you for taking time today to go through this session with us. Thanks all.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Georg, and thank you so much, Gokul. This was so great to see you both, and we so appreciate the knowledge always shared with our community. And as they said, we have some DynamicsCon goodness. Not only do we have the 15% off coupon code, but we are also giving away a free ticket today to the attendee that came and joined us from the furthest location, which was New Zealand. So Natasha De Beer, if you are still on, and we will find you even if you're not, because it's probably pretty early there right now. Congratulations. We will get you your complimentary code to DynamicsCon. And thank you so much, everyone, again, for attending this Doug community event. And we hope to see you all again soon. Have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.